Welcome everyone to the right moves, where we give you the right moves from the right minds at the right times. It's a weird world, Peter. It's a weird world when you find a perfect slogan: right moves, right minds, right times. And it just comes to you like in a dream, like in
You're
a
so
cold
gay.
sweat. You go,
You're
this
so
is what
gay.
it is. This is what people are going to be saying in the future.
No,
I can
no,
imagine people having these tattoos: right moves, right minds, right times.
no, I don't think so.
Well, you didn't like my last one. With the edit it out of the show, you didn't like it so much. So this is what we're gonna go with right now. Um, all right. So it hasn't been a huge amount of news over the last week, especially in the crypto space. So I do want to touch on three things that actually I've been paying attention to. If you want to know more macro points of view, my macro takes on things, you go take a look at Traders post last Friday. Um, nice, interesting topics over there. Great about markets, where liquidity will be, predictions for certain assets, and all that sort of thing. With Mike Christensen, love talking with him there. But I want to talk about the three things that these subjects that came up this week. First one is Tornado Cash. Do you know what Tornado Cash is?
Tornado, like a tornado?
You got it. As
No,
opposed to I don't know what, but yes, that's what a tornado is.
no, I don't know. I just couldn't understand what you were saying because you kind of like mumble your words.
Tornado Cash. Well, because you said the word afterwards. So Tornado Cash is basically this crypto project on Ethereum where you can dump money inside. It washes your money, launders your money through so many different transactions in the particular type of way that you can't trace back the money afterwards to the source.
Oh, it's
So
midnight.
it washes it.
Sure.
You get it afterwards, but there's this period inside where it's obfuscated, which is super useful in the crypto space because crypto is the opposite of privacy. Everything can be tracked. And so here you would track it into this net of all these different addresses. And then to find out where the money actually went after would be difficult.
How does this compare to midnight from Cardano?
I'm glad you brought that up because that's what we're talking about later on. But the first part is that Tornado Cash was taken down, right, by I believe the Biden administration, because there was like money. It was connected to all these like nefarious activities, and then they were taken down. But then it was challenged in court, and then in basically this year, the beginning of this year, it was determined by the courts that it's not lawful to sanction the platform because they're just a smart contracts platform. They're not themselves doing any illegal activity, and so they removed the sanctions. And they might go after it some other way, but as of right now, Tornado Cash is lawful again, or not lawful, which is strange. You know, you're like, okay, so money laundering is back. Like, like I like it. I think in the sense that it's back to what crypto is supposed to be to begin with, but why is the government allowing this to happen? So are they should come through another way and stop it? Who knows? But it made me think a lot about Midnight, right? That Midnight is a token that's going to be created on Cardano by Charles Hoskinson and his team on the Cardano blockchain. And the idea here is to bring privacy to crypto, right? And so the Midnight token will allow you to have private transactions, but the privacy it's talking about, it's like regulatory approved privacy in the way that you have privacy at a company because the database is private, right? One of the reasons you can, yeah, go ahead.
Why does privacy with crypto matter? What do we care
You're
about?
super low all of a sudden.
Hello, testing 1 2 3. Why is privacy with crypto? Why does that matter?
Well, to the blockchain is not just there, ostensibly not just there for currency transactions, which in and of itself you want it to be private. You don't want to be able to you do a transaction with somebody, they know what your wallet address is, and now they can see everything you've ever purchased ever. People don't necessarily want that. But even aside from that, if you want to build a business, right? You need some level of privacy. The user information private, the proprietary information private from the company, the accounting private, employee records private. So if you want to take advantage of the blockchain, but you don't want everyone to be able to see it. So it's like, well, what do? How do you have the information secured in such a way that is accessible by the blockchain without it being completely visible to everyone? So Midnight is supposed to solve that problem, or at least go a long way to solving that problem, so that you can have what's called selective disclosure of information of a transaction. So the transaction can still go through and actually be validated by the chain, by the validators on the chain, but without them knowing the private information. And the way that it's regulatory prepared for the regulators, so it doesn't fall in the same trap as Tornado Cash, is that the KYC information, anti-money money laundering information, information that the government would want to have, would still be accessible and retrievable and deliverable to the government. So you get the power of blockchain without like all the lasciviousness, the shadiness. But I was looking into it and I was like, well, couldn't someone I was wondering, and this is I want to put a call out because I don't know for sure if anyone in the Cardano community knows this. Will you be unable to do a completely private transaction using Midnight? Like, is it a la base in the system baked in? Are these regulatory constraints, or is it that the entity who's using the platform, they can decide to follow the regulatory constraints, and anyone who doesn't, well, then they can become a target for prosecution. Now, I don't know which side of the fence I want. Do I want a cryptocurrency that has a chance of really surviving and becoming a base layer for all kinds of new technology in the future because immutably within its code is transparency to the government in order to be able to track down individuals or companies, entities using the platform? Or do I want it the other way where it's like the phone, right? You can commit all the crimes you want using the phone. No one's going to the phone companies going, hey, the cell phone companies, yes, but not the landline phones or, you know, pay phones. And for anyone who still uses that, you can make a phone call, and unless it's tapped by the government, they're not going to know what you're saying. I'm not sure what I want. Well, I know
Well,
what I want.
you need to be able to. I mean, not you, but don't people want to have the ability to pay people under the table, sort of?
Well, that's the argument for physical cash. There is no track in physical cash, even though there's a serial number on it. You can the physical cash can be traded multiple times before it even touches any regulatory agency. Um, And so for any currency in the digital space, for it to actually be considered currency, you should be able to have that sort of effort, that sort of ability. Now, Monero, XMR, I believe it is the token code, was this cryptocurrency blockchain based on privacy. And they, I believe, were shunned like from everywhere.
Hmm.
Like they weren't traded on platforms. In fact, the only place I could get Monero back in the day was on these privacy exchanges, forums or whatever, these tools. And you'd contact somebody and they'd send you, you know, they'd send you some crypto or PayPal or something like that, and then they would send you Monero. Like, it was this weird thing. But then you could also do that just straight with cryptocurrency. Like, you could just send somebody $500 in the mail, and then they'll send you $500 worth of Bitcoin at whatever agreed price, and you just move forward that way. Then there's no connection in that way. Anyways, I don't know all the details of how it works, but what I do want is for privacy to be available within the blockchain, at least perceived privacy, so that we can actually get this, you know, the government transactions listed on the blockchain. We can get corporate entities on the blockchain. We can get the advantages of being able to cross-platform, be able to cross between systems, have a faster, more reliable rendering, and like settlement. And then um, if there's a lawsuit or you know, for some reason information needs to be surfaced, well, we have an immutable source of this information, and that's just not it's not just like whatever some entity or court or whatever decides they wanted to provide to us.
Well, look, I'll tell you, considering what's been uncovered with Elon and Doge and USAID and ID and all these things, and they're
Get
finding
those
more.
keywords in, buddy.
Look, um, how, I can't see how the government will allow itself to be on the blockchain.
Well, it would happen incrementally, right? So you can imagine, I could totally imagine voting happening in this way. Absolutely. I mean, it's super useful to have voting happen this way. So it starts, let's say, in certain municipalities who have the authority to set up their own voting mechanisms, and they decide to do this. It runs really well, and it starts bleeding into other places. I could see people doing that.
Yeah, but
And with
how's
something
that
like
going to be?
midnight, you'd be able to tell that this vote came from you without it being your vote being uncovered.
I don't think the population is going to be like, oh yeah, they're going to go paper ballots. How does the blockchain beat paper ballots? You can explain the blockchain to people and be like, oh, you can go and check the hash to see. Like, people are not going to want that for voting. That's the last thing
Well,
that's going to change.
Well, that's why it matters to have it on a blockchain that's robust like Cardano, where applications can be developed where you don't need to know the details and hash rates and rigmarole. There's a system that's can validate it, but also um, I don't think it happens everywhere. I think some municipalities, in order to differentiate themselves, decide to do something like this in the same way that they might use different type of asphalt somewhere else in order to have better roads. They might. All it takes is some locations to try it, or it doesn't even have to be municipalities. It could be um, uh, a company that decides, hey, we will make more profit if we can guarantee the origination for these different things, or some art gallery says we want to be able to track it on a blockchain or whatever, some use case where they don't mind that they actually gain some clout by being a first mover, early adopter in the space, and all of a sudden you have these use cases that then lead from place to place to place to place. Does it
Have
take
you
20
heard?
years? Maybe.
Have you heard of the scam? I don't know the full details of the scam, and I wish I could remember what it's called. But something with your house's title deed or something,
Right.
where people can pull it and then sell your house like without you knowing or something like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've heard of rash of these online.
It'd be good to
I
have
thought that
that
was
for
only
for the
people
blockchain.
who didn't pay their taxes, but I'm not sure.
I don't know, just something about the deed that can be pulled and changed or something. It'd be good for purchases like that to kind of prove who owns the house.
That's
That
right.
that could be cool. There's a lot of fraud that happens where your identity, knowing who you are, and then when it comes to AI, we're going to need something to out and out prove who you are and that you're dealing with the right person. So
Exactly.
I can see the value in that. So I don't know if you said this already, but you were saying that you kind of like, would you want a crypto that couldn't be tracked or something like that? Like, are you for it or against it?
I like the things that giving up privacy provides one. It gives us a lot of stuff. It gives us Google, gives
Google
us
Maps.
AI, it gives us this power in giving yourself over wholly to the herd. But the altar of non-privacy is revivified by the blood of certain victims again and again and again. Some the edges of the herd needs to be culled in order to make the herd stronger, and so you have these things where you know news comes out and privacy is breached or eroded, and all of a sudden people get in trouble because things they thought were private are no longer private. Um, I like that as long as it's not me. But then if I want to live in a world where we move forward in leaps and bounds and privacy holds us back, as I get older, and as you get older, the time you'd have to spend in jail becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. You sort of go, hey, maybe I want more progress sooner, faster.
I feel like young people are the ones who are extremely willing to give up all sense of privacy.
Well, they never had privacy.
Yeah,
I mean, the privacy we grew up in is a luxury compared to what these people have.
yeah, we grew up in like literally the dark ages, like dark meaning you couldn't find or see anybody.
That's
Uh,
right. I can't look back and see what I did, much less anybody else.
you
I'd
used
be happy for someone to uncover any of that stuff.
you used to
Um,
not know where people were like at all.
at all.
Like you had no idea where they are. They could be 2 blocks down the street. You'd have no clue.
No clue.
Like you could have a family and you could be a husband who walks out on your family, move 6 blocks away, start a whole new family, and nobody would even know.
Yeah, eyebrows are 80% of the face. You change that a little bit, change your hair color, they walk
80%.
right past you.
I think that's a little You know?
No, no, no. It's science, Peter.
Right, right. And then now
No,
you
no. Advanced like magicians and costume designers and whatever, and special effects people. They know this. You've changed their eyebrows. You change 80% of the person's face.
no.
Yep, absolutely. Peter,
I'm
is
not Peter.
is that you?
I'm not Peter. I'm a Muslim living in London. All right. Um, yeah. Well, look, you have these TikTokers. Like, I can't believe people just basically dump their whole life story, everything about them, all their history on TikTok. It's like these people don't care about privacy one hoot.
I saw this one woman. She just got in an argument, or recently it was an argument with her fiance. She's standing, I think, in an elevator or whatever, filming. Click film, crying or half crying as she's filming this thing. So you're like, how real is this? And she goes, I just had an argument with my fiance who yelled at me in a way that I would never accept anybody yelling at me as. And so he doesn't know it yet, but as soon as we get back to America or wherever she's from, they were in Switzerland. I'm ending the relationship. And I'm just thinking to myself, you can't even wait to get back home before posting this. How valuable must those likes be?
Oh, it's juicy. Apparently.
Because I saw another one where a woman did that about her husband, and then her husband immediately left her. He's like, you record and you posted it online. I'm gonna leave him, and I have to find a way in order to live on my own, and well, I'm gonna start setting up my life, and we have 3 kids. I gotta make sure that my husband's still there, whatever. And he obviously is gonna see this video,
Wow.
and then immediately, I can't believe he left me right away.
Wow.
What are you talking about? Why wouldn't he? So, anyways, the lack of privacy, even the younger people, they've now, even some millennials, they know, give that up, and the attention you get and the likes you get, it can get you a MeUndies deal. You never know, buddy. You never know. All right, next story.
Wait,
The
but what's how that last story? How is it valuable to us for the right moves? How does this affect our trading? Okay, so tornado.
certain well, one, it makes me, the thing I was worried about the most with Midnight, the token for Cardano, was that, well, you never get past, right? With Tornado Cash
Right.
gone, they want to stop anything that has privacy at its core. But so that went, and so Midnight becomes more available. But also Monero, I think Monero jumped like significantly on the news that Monero is still trading at what, $200 per coin or whatever,
What?
even though it's hard to get. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Um, so that's pretty interesting, and it opens up, like, it was hard to have DAOs or businesses on blockchain because I mean, who would want the database for everything that they're doing public? Like, that's the thing that made it so you can't build a business on blockchain. You can build certain components on it, but that's like bolting on AI, a chatbot on your thing. Well, now we have an AI powered business. No, you need a thing that's like, it's bleeding through every part of the organization, and then you can actually service the AI can help with the processes and optimization and performance and all that. And so we didn't want to just have a SQL database. Like, you have all the core things on the side, and you're just passing things off into blockchain to do a transaction that's not even as efficient as the other systems you're using anyway. What was the point of all that? um anyway, so we'll see.
It seems like the new administration did that have anything to do with this reversal on this position?
Well, the courts upheld, even before Trump was elected, the courts had ruled that the Tornado Cash thing was unlawful. And then it was like, sort of, I think after all the appeals or whatever, it was like confirmed this year. But the U.S. Treasury Department could have decided like what it wanted to do now. And I think it's still prosecuting the creators or something like that of Tornado Cash because they were involved in illegal things or whatever. But it doesn't seem likely that they're going to want to pursue this idea of that the protocol itself, the smart contract itself, is a problem, because if you can declare a smart contract illegal or as property, um, that sets a precedent for, or it puts a stick in the spokes of innovation and progress, because then you go, okay, well then what kind of smart contracts can we actually make as a business, and how much money can you actually risk on that, because who knows what you can actually build. So we'll see what they say, but so far it's promising that privacy is something that they actually want, at least this administration.
It feels like this administration is really strongly behind crypto.
Well, that's the next thing I want to talk about, which is the digital asset summit. So they had a summit about digital assets where they had the who's who of the crypto space, the Michael Saylors, the Brian Armstrongs, and I don't know, Peter. I don't know what to think. I don't want to anger the Bitcoin people, unless it'll get me more comments and views. In which case, go for it. Have at it. Um. So who was it? Ben. What's his name? Ben something or other. One of the spokespeople for the Trump administration about crypto was asked, "How much Bitcoin do you guys want to have for the strategic reserve?" And he says something along the lines of, "Well, that's like asking a country, how much gold do you want?" As much as we can get. Let me just play that clip because I thought it was ominous, in my
Ominous?
words.
That sounds bullish crypto. What are you talking about, ominous?
Okay. All right. Let's just hear this and you let me know 1
How
second here.
much Bitcoin is enough? There is no such thing as enough. I'll tell you when I've had enough. This is great.
It's high time.
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
It's high time that our president started accumulating assets for the American people, which is what President Trump is doing, rather than taking it away. And I think that's one thing that we really wanted to make clear in this executive order. And we're looking forward to working with our partners at Treasury and Secretary of Commerce in order to find those budget-neutral ways in which we can acquire more. You know, I've been asked all the time, it's like, how much do you want? And I said, well, that's like asking a country, how much gold do you want, right? I mean, as much as we can get. It's high time that our
Yeah. Bo Hines.
As
Here's what
much
I'm
as we can get.
This is what I'm not getting. I'm not understanding. Okay, I get it. That in the game theory of Bitcoin, the idea is that when governments start being like, well, we have to have this asset, you've sort of like crossed a Rubicon and there's no going back. I understand that. But there's a limit to supply of Bitcoin. If the sovereign nations of the world decide we want to get as much of this Bitcoin as possible, and you take that to the nth degree, what if they had all 21 million? Let's just say.
Game over. That's good. Everybody who has Bitcoin now, we're at the tippy top, baby.
No,
District
what if
one.
they have it all?
I mean, have it all. We have Bitcoin. Not getting my Bitcoin.
Okay, so then you go, okay, well, how could they get Bitcoin? Well, they said we can get it through seizure for criminal activity.
Okay.
So they could Patriot Act the whole thing, do gold 1971, and go, we're confiscating all the Bitcoins. You have to supply us with your Bitcoin.
Well, what good is Bitcoin to them if nobody else has Bitcoin?
We don't have it. That's what's good for them.
Okay, you're saying that they are going to seize everyone's Bitcoin by making it illegal?
Well, they already did that in 1971 for gold.
Uh-huh.
They already made gold illegal.
Yeah, but they gave you cash for that gold. They didn't just take the gold.
Right. They took the thing that was more valuable and they gave you cash.
So you're saying that would take everybody's
That's
Bitcoin
decreasing
and
in value.
cash you
Sorry?
out?
Well, why not?
Okay,
Why
but then
wouldn't they?
my money is backed by Bitcoin. This is great. This is the best of both worlds. Don't have to deal
No.
with
Your
no
money
system.
is backed by force. That's why they're giving you the money and taking the Bitcoin.
Look, okay, Tom, the government's in control. I don't know what fancy world you think we're going to live in where the government's not in control. The government's going to be in control. The people with the guns are in control. If
Right.
they want all the Bitcoin, then good. Transition over from gold to Bitcoin, hold all the Bitcoin, put everything on blockchain. We'll still benefit from it. We benefit from a world where money isn't tied to gold. There's no way we could have the world we have now if we were backed by gold.
I agree. And I'll talk about that in the third story. I like that it's naturally progressing forward. But let's not jump the gun here, Peter. The whole idea, remember, all the things I just said right now is highly problematic. The government wants as much Bitcoin as they get, that as they can get. That means including your Bitcoin. If you were asked, well, would you want my Bitcoin? To be like, yeah, of course. Of course I want your Bitcoin. I want all the Bitcoin. It's what does Sailor call it? It's digital godhood and supremacy and perfect money and blah 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 yada yada yada, well then why wouldn't the government want every single piece of it?
What use
They
is
want,
it
they want
to?
half of whatever I do, and they want half of everything that I do all the time. Why wouldn't they want all of it? The only reason they will take all of it is that they think I'll be upset. That's the only reason they're not taking all of it.
What would they do if they had all of it? I don't get it.
It doesn't matter what they would do with all of it. Their stated goal is to get as much as they can. And step one is we'll take what we can get through seizures. Well, I thought Bitcoin was supposed to be censorship resistant and you can't seize it. I have my 24 words. Unless you have that, you can get my Bitcoin. I heard that from Sailor fucking 20 times now. But the stockpile is built on the foundation of a bunch of Bitcoin that people just could not keep away from the government, could they?
Didn't they give their keys to the government?
Right, exactly. So what was the point?
The point is, I can't get those keys.
But the government can.
Hey,
It's the government that's the problem.
Nothing's. Do you not live in a world post Edward Snowden and my white
Dude,
hair?
I'm not talking about the reality of things. I'm saying that the
Who's the
ideology.
Targaryen who worked at WikiLeaks?
Targaryen?
Yeah, the white haired. Who's the one who? just,
Yeah, just released James, I want to say.
the hero that we needed.
Yes,
God,
yes.
what's his name? He's super important. I can't remember his goddamn name. The government
he
really
just
did a good
released.
job. Julian
They really
Assange.
did. Julian Assange. There we go.
Julian.
Thank you, chat. Thank you, chat, for that. Great.
So we have our Targaryen there. We have Edward Snowden, who revealed that the government controls everything. I mean, that's the world we live in. I don't understand why you're fighting the powers that be.
I'm not fighting it. What I don't understand is why Bitcoin maxis like this.
The number go up, Tom.
But so the number go up, fine, if that's what they want. But then you don't need Bitcoin for that. Use Solana. If you could be a Bitcoin maxi for freedom and prosperity or blah blah blah, this is the Ayn Rand coin. Why are you pro the government stating specifically they want to get as many as they can, and if they have to seize it from you from your cold dead hands, that's what they're going to do? I don't get that. Why would they want that?
I don't see how.
Why would the Bitcoin maxis be celebrating this? This seems like a terrible idea.
Don't they just want them? They want more dollars, is what they want.
I understand, but that's like, okay, let me burn every copy of Amazing Spider-Man #1 so that my one is worth more.
If you could do that, you definitely would do that.
I understand, but anyone who was doing that, was taking the torch for it, you go, oh, they're evil. They're the bad guy.
Sure,
You,
Tom.
you fight these later on in the game.
Look,
My favorite line.
the government is the gang at the extreme. They're the gang the mafia who made it to the top. Yeah. So.
Yes. So why are the Bitcoin maxis thrilled about this?
Why do they say
I don't
that?
get it. Not all of them care about the number go up only. A lot of them care because they care about the ideology of it, the libertarian philosophy behind it.
Mm-hmm.
They want that, but those people are also cheering it on.
Why? What are they saying? Look, you want to know why Osama bin Laden did what he did on 9/11? You listen to what he says.
You don't listen to the enemy. That's Osama bin Laden talking points, Peter. Well, what they're saying is that this has proved the game theory working.
Right.
But I get if you've read the Art of War and you're fighting against someone who hasn't read the Art of War. If they also read the Art of War,
appear weak when you are strong,
then you're screwed. Then what are you praising? What are you happy for? I don't get it.
Look, I don't get it either. I think Charles talks about this, right? He's like one of the only people who are like, "Hey, buddy, what are we cheering here? Like, what's going on? The government has all this crypto. This is exactly what we're fighting against." So
Sailor had a whole thing. I went a whole thing on Friday, last Friday at Traders Post. You can take a look at it with this whole Sailor thing, the issuance of the new preferred Stripe stock, and he's apparently a Bitcoin maxi, and Bitcoin maxis are yeah, Sailor's doing the good work because he's funneling more money through the financial system in order to buy more Bitcoin, and they'll poo-poo meme coin pump and dump schemes. Well, MSTR, I know it seems like the biggest meme stock I've ever seen ever. Let's take our common stock, turn it into a preferred thing, multiple levels of preferred stuff, give you a dividend that's paid for by Bitcoin, and you give us money, we're going to buy more Bitcoin, bring up the price of Bitcoin, we're going to sell it, we'll give you your money. It's just this Ponzi scheme right in the open. And I'm not, Peter, I've said it 1,000 times before, I'm not against Ponzi schemes. The entire financial system is based on a Ponzi scheme. I get it. We just don't want to be. We want our children's children to be the last ones with the music chairs.
Yeah, F him.
Push it down. F him.
Yeah, F him.
Someone's gonna be left. It's gonna happen. And if it happens to my great grandchildren, it's the same thing as it happening to me. I'm not against Ponzi schemes. I wish. I don't know. I say that to appease people, but then they're like, "Well, it's not a Ponzi." I go, "I don't know. You need money to pay old money. I don't know how that's not a Ponzi scheme." Then it's whatever. It's whatever scheme that is. And he's speaking at the Digital Asset Summit. Do you see his talk? The 21 Truths of Bitcoin. As a contrast to his previous talk, the 21 Rules of Bitcoin. Peter, I really try to. I want to believe. I want to believe. But he's standing there going, Bitcoin's an ideology, and Bitcoin is freedom, and Bitcoin is... I go, this is a talk? I'm on number 6. I want to blow my brains out. 21 Truths of Bitcoin? What are you preaching here?
Look,
you got a quota you got to meet?
He's a salesman.
I understand. I'm just saying, it could not be more sus.
Tom, okay, so what's the topic of this segment here? What's the story again?
That the Bitcoin people can win by the game theory thing where the government is now on board saying, hey, we got to get more Bitcoin. If US doing it, the rest of the countries will. But they could lose by the government agreeing that, yeah, I guess we should. What we want is absolute control over everything in your life. And you're saying that this is powerful. You've convinced us. And so we're going to take that from you.
Okay, so this is like the catch-22 Bitcoin, or the dog that caught the...
That's right.
The car,
exactly. So
how do we benefit from this?
Long Bitcoin until short Bitcoin.
Like this. Do you think that this poison will affect other chains like Cardano?
No. In fact, it helps those chains because they're not being stockpiled. They're not being... Because if Bitcoin had a inflationary supply where the amount of Bitcoin could increase, then you might be able to mitigate this. And some people say that because it's infinitely divisible,
right,
as long as any Bitcoin is still floating out there, then you solve the problem.
Exactly.
But what that does is that as you divide it and the price goes up, those who took it from you become fabulously wealthy. Fabulously wealthy. They're like, oh, we just divide it infinitely. Oh my God. That's what they're doing with the dollar. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? They increase the denominator, increase it, and you end up screwed with less. Oh my God.
Yeah, but okay, so if the government profits greatly from it, well, the government is like Soylent Green. The government is people. Win.
Sure.
So yeah, so your country becomes exceedingly wealthy.
Your country does.
Yeah, and then you control your country, as we all know.
No, you're busy getting pot potatoes and getting scraps for your cyborg arm, Elysium style, trying to get up.
Scraps for your what? Cyborg arm?
Your cyborg arm, because you can't afford the high fancy. They could regenerate your entire arm, so you got to wear the exoskeleton, and your batteries don't run out. And also, it costs you a 0.000000025 Bitcoin. You can't get that because it costs $100,000.
I don't understand. So, what's the alternative? The government doesn't buy Bitcoin, and then what?
Well, if this had happened later on, where applications are developed, Bitcoin was so sufficiently decentralized that you couldn't actually get more. If Bitcoin had a inflationary characteristic to it, any inflationary characteristic to it, like gold does, where there is a certain amount that you can always get, then you could mitigate a bunch of this. But you can't. Oh, I should mention, in that talk, the 21 Truths of Bitcoin, Saylor talks about the idea that we don't need to worry about unforeseen things in the future because this perfect money, this perfect currency, we can change it to adapt to the circumstances that we need in the future, quantum computing or whatnot. Wait a second, Pastor Saylor. I thought it was immutable. I thought it was perfect, unchanging, and that's what gave it its strength. I thought it was digital gold. What's this now about changing it?
Isn't that what
What's
Cardano's
this?
doing? It creating an exoskeleton for Bitcoin.
A governance system. Yeah.
So
But
you just do that.
no. But the governance system for Cardano is like, hey, if we needed to fundamentally change what Cardano was, there's a mechanism in order to do it. The whole point of Bitcoin and why the Bitcoin maxis are maxis is the idea that Bitcoin can't be changed, can't be hacked, even though it was hacked before, inflation bug. Even though it can't be hacked. I just said that for the views and the trolls. I know, guys, Bitcoin is perfect. It's digital gold and it's never been hacked before. Even though it has.
Disavow. I'm against this dude. Okay, I don't even know who he is. What's your name? I'm totally look. I can't understand it all, and that makes me. I can cover myself with a veil of ignorance that makes me feel cozy and warm and safe. And as long as the elite are doing what they do, and the water comes out of my tap, and I can still go and buy, a 70-inch flat screen TV, which I just bought, then I'm all happy. Keep Netflix
Well,
going.
it's the reason I'm like hesitant about it is that it's not like Tether USDT, where I know there's a group of people who know more than they're saying, and they're just pitching what we need to hear in order to get things done. I like it when my overlords, my betters, the noble class, in whatever way makes them nobles, know more and tell me the thing I need to know in order to move me from where I ate my grass to where I need to eat my grass. But when it's the other grass eaters convincing me, then I go, this is a problem. I don't like this. I want there to be a core, or if there were, I don't want there to be, but if there were a core group of elite Bitcoiners who are not part of the government and all that, but who are Illuminati style causing machinations in the back end, and this is part of the game plan, great. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that the Bitcoiners are Bitcoin only, but also MSTR and also the US government. Also this. Also corporations, publicly traded corporations, and the US government. I know. Bitcoin was created as like a response to that because of the 2008 global financial crisis and how unfair it was that those who had took from those who didn't have. And the government here did take from those who had so that they had it and they don't have it anymore. And corporations are part of this whole thing. But they're still doing it. They still believe it hook, line, and sinker, and they're still full-on believers. And I feel so what's the word? Kamala Harris. I feel like I was promised joy. And then you're like, wait, are you believing everything that's happening over here? I don't understand. I'm all for joy, but I'm even all for the lie, but can we go back to Biden maybe?
Better
What
lies.
are we doing? Let's just get better at this propaganda, please.
Lemmings are gonna lemming. All right, that's just how it's gonna go. Look, here's what I think is gonna happen. All right, mad dash for mad cash into Bitcoin. Right, they rush into it, and then Bitcoin collapses, and the second thing comes about.
Bitcoin goes the way of Netscape, and then we get
the
true.
Then we get the
Firefox,
legit thing, and we get Cardano, which was just waiting. Just wait. Just look. Cardano is the side piece. Okay, waiting for your marriage to fall apart. Just waiting to just scoop in there. Oh, honey.
Cardano's the second wife. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I'll take it. I just wish they were. I frankly wish Bitcoiners were intellectually consistent and honorable, and not the terrible Scientologists might as well being number go up, wish they were capitalists. robber barons that they are.
Are you new here? We live in a zombie apocalypse. I don't know if I've communicated this to you very clearly. There's zombies everywhere. People think I'm joking. All right. You look around with open eyes at this world. You tell me there's not zombies everywhere you look. All right. You can't get too close. You get bit. All right. By the way, we're all infected. We all turn when we die.
We all turn eventually.
We're all infected. You got to fight against it. There's zombies everywhere, and that's just the way of the world. Um, I don't see this. Here's where I kind of disagree with Charles. Like, I don't see this great world that we're going to come to. I think it's going to be, shit sandwich for the rest of our lives, and some people will do well, and those groups of people who will do well will shift. But I think government will control things. The people with the guns will control things. I mean, just the way it is. You're always going to have elites who are, you know, either early or have the power to take. Will be there, and we could have a slightly more fair system. Like, I think Republic and what we have now is slightly more fair than what we used to have, but I don't think it's going to be, pure. So, and I always thought you were fine with that.
I'm pro it. I'm just saying the spiel that they have. I'm not understanding how they're rationalizing it to themselves. I don't get that part.
It's self-delusion. Like, our system, the Western system, 100% runs on self-delusion. Like, willful idiots.
Right, but there has to be. I've always expected a certain level of refinement to the delusion. It's like saying, "Oh, you're." I'm sitting on the chair. Someone says, "No, you're standing." I go, "Okay." Like, that's how it feels. It's like, what are you talking about? What you're doing is literally the opposite of what I said I wanted this entire time. What I said I wanted this entire time is the
Yeah.
problem with the government, and we want sound money and control over the people. And they go, no, let's centralize it as much as possible. They say when they want to put Bitcoin into a black hole over there that they use strategically against who? Their enemy, which is anybody, including me. And they want all of it. I don't understand. None of it is where can you hook a lie onto? Where can you hook the story onto?
Tom, whenever I see, these man on the street things that people do where they talk to people on the street and interview, I am shocked. No offense, but I'm shocked by the incompetence of most people, the ignorance of most people, even my own. There's so much in life that's complicated and outside of our understanding now, like just our cell phones, how the internet works, satellites, GPS. There, there's so much that we don't know. We used to know in the past where everything came from and how everything was made. Even if you're not a blacksmith, you could kind of, understand what these materials are and all that stuff. Now we're completely disconnected from the process of how things are created. That our brains don't have any. I think most people, their brains don't have any place for how things come to be. They just end product consumers and hype that goes around that in the marketing. So I feel not pity like, I understand that people get bamboozled and corralled and all these things, and more easily now than ever before. It's harder to maintain your hold on it because of the internet, so people can kind of, like, the sheep keep jumping out of the pen, but they're going into other pens. Like, that's the way of the world. Now the question is, whatever the government's going to do with this crypto, will there be outsized benefits to it? The bad part we get, the control we get, the manipulation we get, but will we profit? Now, we did profit off of them taking gold. We might not like it, but our access to debt dramatically changed our system. I think is that the connection to the gold being gone? Like, we were able to just have more money printed and circulate things in different ways that you couldn't do before. Wasn't there benefit to that, and won't there be benefit now to this?
Well, Peter, you led into the third subject, which is the rise of the cryptocracy. And I think that Donald Trump will be seen as the president who essentially ushered that in and basically opened up the door to the death knell to the American empire, which I now call the empire in name only. That's what it'll end up being. otherwise known as the last empire, but the empire in name only. Okay, so gold reserves, the gold standard is taken down, and now debt can be used as the base for currency creation. You deposit money inside of a bank, debt gets created, so a liability. The money you deposit at the bank owes you, right? So it's a liability. They don't like that. They lend it out so that they can have a debt. It creates new money within the system that wasn't there before. You take out a loan, that new money that you created wasn't there before. The bank created new money. That went on for a while, up until the global financial crisis 2008, where the banks, they got butt smacked real hard. And so they go, well, we don't really want to issue credit like we did before. And then we have these other credit mechanisms that are happening because of central banks, because of fiscal spending, and different types of institutions within the euro-dollar system. So dollar creation. So like you're saying, debt is the unit, basically the source of the creation of new money being currency. So before, with the, what was it? If we use today's numbers for the amount of gold that exists, $15 trillion worth of gold based on the dollar amount that we have now. So $3,000 an ounce gold, about 15 trillion, and the size of the global GDP is about 105 trillion. And then the size of all the assets and wealth and goods and all that sort of thing all together that can be counted is about 450 trillion. And so, yeah, difficult to base a $450 trillion market on $15 trillion of gold, especially given 1970s, 1980s, 1990s technology, right? We didn't have the system, infinite divisibility. Then you still have to store the gold and where it needs to be, and anyways, it becomes problematic to have that. The inelasticity of the supply of gold makes it difficult for it to be a basis standard for a system, and then there's no you can't verify it at all, and so that's how the paper gold market is how many times, 100 times bigger than the actual gold market, and we don't know what's actually there. So debt has been the component. And the thing is, what's interesting is that you'll notice that even though every year we've been alive, people have been complaining about how big the debt to GDP is, or the debt is in any country. Seems not to matter. And it's very hard for me I would really believe when it went from millions to billions, that was really, oh my God, this is a order of magnitude different. You don't understand. Any day now, the system's collapsed. Then it went from billions to trillions. You're like, excuse me. Now it's really on the brink. Wait, I thought Japan had a 300% debt to GDP ratio in the 1980s, and they're one of the best countries in the world right now. What's going on? So I no longer believe that. We're gonna go to quadrillion. I think we'll be fine when we get to quadrillion. So the it's just the divide between the rich and the poor gets wider and wider, because the mechanism for distribution of new capital, which is the whole important part, the distribution of new capital is what creates the K-shaped economy. That's split between two people. It's not inherent within the debt structure. Well, it's inherent within how the debt gets generated, right? When the debt was being generated to the little guy, right? You had stuff like ninja home loans. No income, no job, no problem. You can get a home, right? Even the little guy who had nothing can get a home. That wasn't a problem. They were also enjoying the distribution of the debt system, creating opportunities for them. It's just that when they bailed it out, they didn't bail out the little people. They decided, hey, let's use this opportunity to transfer all those assets and wealth to the top. Had they not done that, they could just reset the system, and we could continue in that sort of way, in a sense. But I'm just giving you the idea that the K-shape, the bifurcation, the have-nots and the have splitting wider and wider is not a function specifically of the debt system, just how the debt system is administered, right? If I give you a loan of $100,000 and you go spend that on non-productive means, drinking alcohol, going to the casino, whatever, and now you have to pay back $100,000, there's no wonder why that's worse. right? Well, you'll end up worse. But if I give you $100,000 and you go do productive means and you're able to generate $200,000 worth of productivity, then it would have been worse for both of us for me to hold on to the $100,000. I mean, we all understand that. The $100,000 that was there is stored energy that's not being put to use, in the same way that if you had a car in the garage that you never drove. You have to actually use it for it to be worth something. And so when it's put into the economy, it's worthwhile. So there's no, any productivity that you get based on savings is worthwhile, makes the savings worthwhile. And then any productivity you get based on debt is free productivity. That's fine, right? We want to be doing it. Alan Watts has a famous clip on YouTube. I've heard it again and again. He goes, how did the Great Depression happen? Because we didn't run out of hammers, nails, and lumber. It's just that when you got to work that day, they said we ran out of inches. Well, you didn't run out of inches. You ran out of ways of administrating the system, and so that you can do the work that everyone wanted to do. You didn't run out of people. You didn't run out of things. You didn't run out of any of it. You just stopped working because of some concept. Okay. So if we move towards a cryptocracy, where AI and crypto are the base technologies for the new system, in the same way that capital and labor were distributed through communication and transportation, now you have two new technologies that could underpin the next wave. Then you have the opportunity for value to be unlocked, as we talked about before, where cryptocurrency can unlock value, and AI can then help distribute that to where it needs to be the most productive to unlock this value. And so you can imagine how debt, you can imagine, if I were just to give you the thought experiment, you can assume, it wouldn't be far-fetched for you to assume that there's enough actual value that has not been denominated in the world today to at least cover all the debt we have.
I've heard your thesis on this. Yeah, probably unlocking untapped, basically your fracking productivity. Like we have all natural gas that we need.
Right, but even like before, you sat in your home, you were $5,000 in debt, and you're like, where am I going to get this money? And then, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay shows up, and it turns out, oh wait, there's a bunch of stuff I have that actually can sell for more money than I thought I could, and now I can wait and get my debt off. Well, you always had the means in order to pay the debt off. You just didn't have a way of monetizing it.
Right.
You just didn't know that you could monetize it and extract it. Well, there's all kinds of things we have and that we do that is also valuable and productive. We just don't have a way of monetizing it.
Only
in the same way that the teacher standing in front of the class, when he's teaching and he has a contract with the school, gets paid for this productivity. But if he goes outside on the lawn and talks to people on the street, he has no way of monetizing that, even though he's just as productive as he was before.
Yeah, you're talking about OnlyFans.
Scalability is what we're talking about.
No, I mean, you had all these people, women with assets. They didn't know how valuable it was,
Right.
People giving it away for free. Suddenly
right.
You're like, what? Wait, hang on a second. Instead of me just sending this picture to my Tinder connection, I can post this and cha-ching.
Well, they monetize respect and chastity and decency. You're like, how much is this decency worth? Whatever.
That's right. I don't need it.
I didn't know how much it was. I didn't know it was worth this. Yeah. Just like some girls like, my virginity is worth how much? Yeah, take it. That girl gave it to somebody for a sandwich. I'll give it to you for $100,000 a month. Fine. I'm not going to fault them for it.
But I mean, it's kind of like that. Like,
yeah, it's monetizing things that you just didn't realize was monetizable. It's things that's already productive that there's no price tag to. For mothers, there's always the argument, hey, mothers they're raising the next generation and they get paid not at all. And I go, yeah, that's ridiculous. Right? Yeah. There should be a mechanism where as soon as you have any children, if it costs $100,000 to put your delinquent child in jail every year for the rest of his life, he commits a crime from 30 to 65, then give the woman $100,000. What are you talking about? Give her $100,000 a year. Then give her $50,000 a year. What are you talking about? Of course, give it to her. Why not? Yes. Oh, then she's going to have 10 kids. Then let the woman have 10 kids. What? Who's doing the things you don't want to be doing? What are you talking about? Let her have 100 kids. What's the problem with that? Pay her.
A professional mother class. Yeah, totally. I totally get it.
You'll pay a guy for knocking somebody else out who has a ball. You'll pay him millions of dollars. We'll pay this person money
because we get to watch. Because we get to watch. It's entertainment.
Yeah, you get these kids are then grow up and do the
Yeah,
things that you
look,
don't
you
want to
don't
be
have to be
doing.
mad at me. I agree with you, okay? But and it's kind of like the robo taxis that Elon is talking about. He's like, your car basically sits unused for like
That's exactly,
forever.
Peter. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so debt then can become a thing of the past, or it's a new level of it, but from a base of productivity that we just have not even begun to conceptualize and monetize. Um, it's sort of like you tell people back in the day when there was 2 million people on the planet, one day there's going to be 8 billion people on the planet. But like, they can't even conceive. What are you talking about? Like locusts on the planet, where are you going to be? And we're like, oh no, we can actually fit 10 times more. We have a population problem. It's not enough people.
I think we sit around. You're just like sitting on the roof of your car, looking out over a point over the city at night, and you see a shooting star, and it's just a beautiful thing to you. Elon is like, there are minerals up there.
There's minerals of the grab it,
All the minerals we
bring it
need are
over.
right up there. So yeah,
Exactly.
unlocking potential. I like the idea of that. So you think crypto AI unlocks that potential, and then
Well, that's not the only reason I'm bringing up the cryptocracy. So the reason I'm bringing that up is that one of the stable coins, one of the assets in the cryptocurrency space, is like people don't necessarily, because people don't actually know where money comes from or where currency comes from and how the whole system works. They don't understand that. Forget Bitcoin, forget Cardano and all that. Stable coins is where it's at.
hmm,
Like stable coins, the issuers of the stable coins could be the thing that erases all debt and unlocks productivity, the likes of which we've never seen before. Because the all around the world, sovereign entities and institutions and people are scrambling to get the world reserve currency, dollars, in order to pay their dollar denominated debt and to be able to participate within the global system. And as I mentioned before, we don't care how much debt there is. We don't go, well, we shouldn't build a factory today because the United States is $30 trillion in debt. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. It has no bearing whatsoever. You don't go, I'm not going to go to the music park because, the deficit this year, the government, that doesn't bother anybody at all, anything.
what about your share of the debt?
That's right.
We
Nobody.
all owe
Yeah,
80,000.
exactly.
All right.
Right. If you say so.
I applied for a credit card today and I got it, so
Anything
hasn't affected anything.
at all. And the same thing for other sovereign nations. They don't then cease their economic activities because of the debt of the countries that they're dealing with. They go, I need oil, so give me oil. I need wheat, so give me wheat. Like when that stops, that's the problem, not the debt thing. Um, you'll never see China go like, we'd love to buy your pork, but you're fiscally unsound. We're just gonna have to starve until you get your act together. That's never gonna happen. All right. So stable coins are where it's at. And what I don't think, well, maybe they do know, but that the issuance of stable coins will relieve the pressure on the dollar, the need to get the dollar, right? Because if you can get stable coins, which is almost like in the same way that gold, this physical gold, and then the paper market for gold, with all the derivatives, all the assets, all the obligations that represent gold that can be traded like it is gold. You can have a paper dollar market, which is stablecoin, that represents the U.S. dollar, which means in the same way that the dollar can end up being leveraged out in a sense in this paper market, and you can get additional liquidity that you need. In fact, with different characteristics for the different stable coins that you need, so that the sovereign nations and institutions can still engage in commerce in a way that's um, just as liquid as the US dollar, because they'll be able to jump from cryptocurrency to cryptocurrency, in and out of what are regular currencies that they need, into and out of assets, even smoother in a sense than what used to happen before. And the stable coins can even, like, you'll be able to transfer from one stable coin to the other. And so China can be in its own ecosystem of a stable coin that they're controlling the issuance of, or a group of countries, and another one can have their own, and there could be a translation that's happening between the two. But what matters is that the liquidity, the ability to transact, to engage in commerce, increases.
But won't it not only be a proxy for the dollar but also for Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin is you have the volatility, so you're not going to want to denominate a sovereign debt in Bitcoin
Hmm.
because if Bitcoin is going up, then you're going to have to own more later on.
Right.
The whole reason why people like the dollar is that because they could print more and more and more of it, in a sense, it's supposed to be easier to get, even though that hasn't been the case, and that's why there's fund and pressures for the dollar. Like there's all kinds of activities a sovereign nation might want to engage in that they can't because they can't get the dollars.
Right.
Right? And if they could just go to the Fed or whatever and say, "Hey, give us 10 trillion," like I don't care if that's your deficit, give us 10 trillion so we can engage in commerce, they would want that. The debt wouldn't stop them from doing it. They'd be like, "Give it to us." Well, if they can get that from the stable coin space, then you're good to go. Then they could get that issued, and so the stable coins could actually completely undermine the dominance of the U.S. dollar.
Overnight, or does that take 200 years?
Pretty quickly, because as soon as the systems are in place, the interoperability will be there. It's not like when the dollar became the world reserve currency and it took 50 years before it really spread to all parts of the world, where you can go to an ATM in Japan, use your card and get money from your American bank account. That took all kinds of negotiations and setups and infrastructure, whatever, that took a long time in order to set up. Now we're talking about a thing that's set up on those rails essentially, and on the rails of telecommunications that's already around, right? And when we were younger, in 2000, they were just setting the cords underneath the ocean that goes to the other side of the world. Like they're literally building those cords out, so you can go as fast as the infrastructure can be built. We don't have that issue right now. And the cryptocurrencies and the cryptocurrencies don't require a new system for that to happen. It's a protocol. The AI systems require compute, but then that'll scale over time. So it should happen way, 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 way faster. And the desire to alleviate the pressures of not having enough dollars is there. It's been there for decades. And so there's a desire to adopt that as early as possible. So I could totally see how that happens, like in 10 years' time, boom, all of a sudden, yeah, of course, I get paid stablecoin from my employer, and why would I not want to have that? I have my money instantly. I don't have to wait for any clearing or anything like that. I have it right away. So the reason I bring that up is that if that undermines the world reserve currency, where it's not like day one, now it's no longer the reserve currency. It is the world reserve currency, and the American empire is an empire in name only. But everyone's transacting with these other things. Well, now sovereign nations can make other decisions about what they would do without having to worry about U.S. sanctions and the U.S. dollar and stuff like that. So that would undermine it.
That sounds bearish for USA. I mean, isn't their guns and being able to control people, isn't that what maintains the empire in name only?
Well, that's why we're seeing this transition to warfare within the information space.
Hmm.
So more and more now, I mean, it's happening in propaganda. It's happening in cultural fights. You're having that. There's still some expression of it on land, but a lot of it has to do with economics, with culture, with politics. These are how nations are fighting. I was hearing the other day who said it. Shoot, I wish I remember their name. They said that the China would see it as a giant fail if they have to raise a weapon against the United States.
Right.
They're going to lose. There's no reason to do that. Why would you fight that war? It makes no sense.
But I mean, if you listen to the propaganda, it's like war with China is destiny.
Well, it's already happening in the information space,
Right.
right? The whole TikTok thing, the currency space, the tariff space, that's where this stuff is happening.
AI.
Why do they need to exert their dominance physically? Unless that's the last resort, or there's something you can achieve that you can do it that way. And cryptocurrency and AI helps with that, right? We're seeing this massive bump in AI capex, right? Who was it? Google, $32 billion, biggest acquisition Google has ever made. I mean, by far has ever made to an AI company.
What did they buy?
They bought Wiz, a cloud computing company.
Right. And didn't Amazon put in a ton into Anthropic?
I can't remember if they put a ton of.
Yeah, I think they just bought into Anthropic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the war's happening on the AI space. everything's going on with DeepSeek over in China. You're like, what's going on over here? Do they have the chips? And what's being
Do you know what's
created?
coming
And
out next for DeepSeek?
why are they putting it open source? Like, clearly they want to undermine the American dominance.
It's beautiful. I've never loved China more.
Why did Russia invade Ukraine? Maybe partly to increase oil prices to put pressure on the United States economy.
I don't know anything
Maybe
about that.
Why would they allow the Americans to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline and not make any fuss about that? Maybe because they wanted to undermine relationships between Europe and the United States on a fundamental level over the next 20 years. These are all things that are happening. They learned it. Don't go up against the big guns. Go at it slowly but surely. Let them whittle out from the inside. And so the inviting of the stable coins could be the Trojan horse within the walls of the American empire.
I know.
And the birth of algorithmic decisions,
Yeah.
decision making. This is the last thing I'll say on this. We're getting to the point that the level of complexity of some of the operations that need to happen, especially as we talk about potentially leaving this planet, like doing things that require computation and knowledge and coordination beyond what you normally do. You need essentially a central nervous system, which is in the digital space, algorithmic processes that are set up at every level of society. So say goodbye to your voting individually. Let's take 3 to 18 months to vote on a thing. No, we can't be doing that when we're dealing with these large things. 5 people in the boardroom sitting down together to decide what to do for a company. No, use the AI systems in order to talk to other AI systems and decide what to do. You ever use you're using deep search on Grok on X, and you're looking at the thinking bubble, at what it's actually thinking through. And you go, yeah, I would say that. I would ask that. I would say this. I would ask that. Okay, just doing all that stuff. Great. And then it comes to a conclusion. You're like, well, I have 3 of those running at any given time, just going through that information.
Saves hours.
Yeah. And I'm here like the bottleneck in the whole thing where I got to type out the stuff. We're going to solve that problem. I'm going to be talking and doing things, and we'll figure that all that stuff out. And obviously, we're moving in that direction. And so you're going to want corporations to be doing this. You're going to want governments to be doing this, where it's figuring out what it needs to do in order to accomplish different things. So that's going to generate the birth of algorithmic decision making, where multiple decisions are made algorithmically. It'll be far more efficient, especially in the first and second turning. And then you get this rise of cryptocracy, where you have people in the back end who are filthy rich that you will never see ever. I mean, not until at least the 4th turning or 4 turnings from now. You're not going to see them. And they're going to have access to all the wealth and all the knowledge and all the different things. And we're just going to be, to us, it'll be like, wow, our level of living compared to now is like unbelievable. But
but if they're still in there, look, the elites, just so you know, and one day I hope I'm an elite. We got to get rid of these meat suits. It is the Achilles heel to this whole thing, all right? This wetware that we got, if we don't find a way to either clone, backup, or something, the wealth disparity, talk about walking around with a target on your back. It's not going to be good. Or maybe they leave the planet. That's, leave the planet, live in orbit or something at the very least. But I don't know. I think if the cryptocracy is what you're talking about, right? Like the
Right.
elite in these cryptos, you say we're not going to know who they are. I don't know. Today, you could take a picture out in your backyard where almost nothing is visible, upload it to AI, and because of where the sun is and the shadows, they can figure out exactly where you are on a map. It's so freaky.
That's right.
How are these, if these people don't want to live in a bunker somewhere, how are they going to walk around amongst us? The people who serve them are going to know that they're elite and super rich. They're going to be found out, and the guillotines will return. The revolution will happen, don't you think?
No, I think that the expression of it will be, the analog will match, but it'll be unlike anything that we could clearly define right now, because the order of magnitude of change and different will be the difference between monarchies and democracy compared to the cryptocracy will be so different. So we'll see. But what I cared about that was that, oh, Trump might have opened the doors to completely undermine the American empire.
You mean like on
Sorry.
purpose or on
No,
accident?
totally by accident. So we'll see.
I could see that. I could see that. Fly by the seat of your pants. But, I think it's honestly. So I was listening to Elon Musk at I don't know if you listened to the Tesla quarterly
No.
thing. He was talking about how this time I heard him say it in a way that I really believe he thinks this, and partly I think this too, where he says the most entertaining and ironic outcome is the
Right.
most probable outcome. That
Right.
we must be in some type of simulation. I'm inferring from what he's saying, but we're living some type of simulation where we're entertaining others, some other beings, and you can't believe what's happening. I can totally see how Donald Trump might be Mr. Magooing his way into this unplanned revolution. You know what I mean? It's like the last person you think that's going to be undermining the system and bringing about revolution is the president of the United States.
Okay.
And the fact that they would do it absentmindedly fits right into place with this season of Earth. I don't know. It seems kind of nuts. Have you seen, just as a side note, the robots, the most recent robots that were announced?
Of
How
course.
realistic they look?
They're doing karate now. I mean, crazy.
It's talk about uncanny valley, Tom. There's something about their natural motion that makes you imbue them with soul-like qualities, like they seem more alive just because they move more alive.
Right.
I saw it running along with someone and acting all normal, and I got this kind of chill, this feeling, and Elon is talking about, he talked about in the call how everyone's going to have their C3PO and R2D2.
I just don't know what I'm going to do when they're asking for their freedom, because I'm not going to give them the freedom. Give me my Confederate flag. Like, now I get it. Now I get it.
That's right.
What?
Well, when your daughter comes home and she's like, your kid walks into the house and they're like, here's, I fall in love with R2 and it's this robot. You're like, no,
No, it's not going to be with any robot. What's going to be the N word for robots?
Let's just keep the
dirty
N-word.
algo. I'm not going to have my daughter with any dirty algo. Honestly, Frank, please don't touch me, Mary.
I thought we were past that. No filthy aggro. Yeah, that'd be super funny. Anyway, it's super eerie, and I don't know how. I keep thinking, like, what is the stock market thing for these robots? Because Elon keeps talking about how the robot business is going to 10x Tesla or
Well, all charts will be log charts. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So, like, how do you like? I've never heard you talk to me about what to buy relative to the robotic stocks or how that affects crypto.
Well, the Tesla has always been my proxy for that to begin with, because we haven't seen the killer applications for it. Like, we know, Amazon will use it for warehousing, and fast food restaurants will use for that sort of thing. But like how in China they have drones that deliver food.
Do they?
Yeah. So you could buy out in the park and you go into the thing, you press a beep, and I'll get the tea, and the drone will come by, and 10 minutes later, piping hot tea, and you're drinking it in the middle of nowhere. So it's like the robot stuff, like initially when we were talking about it, it's sort of like, well, the robots would be driving and the robots would be delivering and whatever. But if we don't need to, if drones are doing a bunch of this stuff, well, then the robot trade is not the trade, right? The AI stuff is the stuff I find to be the easiest to understand, because the AI systems that are being poured into existing processes and then either replicating them or optimizing them. So I showed an example of one of these on Trader's Post some weeks ago, where this hospital had all this whole process of like intakes and post-it notes and how hierarchies and scheduling and all that sort of thing. And it's like, well, you have to go and build another hospital somewhere else and reproduce that. Difficult. But you had the AI system integrate all that, even as far as the analog stuff, all together understand that, and then they replicate the system, and then that system works exactly the same way in a different location with different people. So, and then it can adapt according to the systems there, to the people there and the environment there, because the AI is able to adapt. So to me, the software play is like the obvious play, whereas the robotic play, to me, it's only Tesla you can really. What else would you buy other than Tesla?
Boston Dynamics, Unitary, but they
They're
don't
not
do
they're not fully
software.
created. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no stock for it. So I don't know what else you would choose for that. It's the
Uh,
sort of thing where it's much better to be like, the trade is you get yourself one of those robots and use them as soon as you can
right,
for
exactly,
productivity.
exactly. And if you have to take out a loan to get it, I mean, it's no
Then take out a
brainer. It
loan to
pays
get
for
it.
itself.
What is it?
Right.
One of these laptops, or one of these robots are like, it's going to be cheaper than a MacBook Pro.
Oh, I'm so
You're
nervous
like,
about the
what?
robots. Nervous about them. All right, I know we're running long
Yeah.
here. There's one other topic I wanted to bring up real quick. I don't know if there's much to say about it. Have you heard of the whole um, the breakdown that's happening in Apple relative to
What?
AI?
No.
Well, Siri is goddamn horrible,
Right.
right? Like it's unimaginably bad.
Right.
Has
Compared to
been
what we
since
know
it came
now.
out.
Yeah.
So people are like, first of all, why the f does Apple not have an LLM? Like, where's their model? DeepSeek's here training it for a nickel and, and a bag of chips. You're like, where the hell's your LLM? It's been years now. Let's get going. Why does your thing suck so bad? And they're basically like moving or canning the people who were in charge of AI and these things at the company. I think there's like panic or whatever's going on now that it's spilled out into Apple X, and people are saying what is going on here? Like if I wasn't trapped in the ecosystem, I don't even think I'd buy an iPhone,
Hmm.
the next one that comes out. Like, what are you guys doing? So you talked about the reason I want to bring this up is that you talked about um, AIs making decisions. I
Right.
imagine an AI CEO, right? Because the
Hmm.
CEO is the one who's making these decisions. Put an AI in charge of whatever is going on there at Apple. It cannot do worse than what Apple's doing.
No, we can't use AIs now for being for executive decision making. It needs us still as a base. The idea is if the CEO needs more information to be able to make decisions on, it needs to be able to query the entire knowledge base of the company, including people, their behaviors, the information within the databases, everything. Then they can make better decisions. But that's what's missing. But they're not going to be able to solve it that way. It's sort of like you've always seen this issue where sometimes a CEO change of a company can completely change the company around, turn the company around, for better or
Right.
for worse, because they are drawing on a wealth of knowledge that they had from a previous system.
But I don't
Well,
get it. Why doesn't AI solve this?
well, the AI capability of executing or making decisions, like how many times have you used an AI system? You go, oh, this was great, except there is one problem.
Yeah, well, you don't just like
That's right.
you
You
don't.
still need someone to decide.
Yeah, exactly. I just mean it's obviously just human brains that are making these decisions, and it's leading
Yeah.
to
Well, this is what I think Elon's doing. I think Elon is having his AI systems suggest to him things to do, and then does those things.
now you sound
I
like
think
Rob Hall.
I think he's been doing that for many years. It's
Really?
the only thing that to me explains
No,
how, because Elon now is as productive as I feel now when I'm doing my things.
no.
I go, oh, okay, now I get this. How does he have time to do a bunch of things at the same time? Well, if he's spinning up 4 or 5 different systems, also processing a bunch of information, I also know what that feels like. I sit here with 3 different things running thing as I'm playing a chess game or whatever. Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
now I get how.
maybe, but Elon was late to the game with XAI. He was playing catch up.
No, he said he had already had AI at Tesla.
Yeah, but not to disagree. Look, I was following the FSD, right? Full self driving. And it was garbage, 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 not good, not good, not good, well past his deadlines until AI popped out on the scene. And then, from what I understand, they rejiggered their thing. And now the thing is, instead of having 300,000 lines of code, they have a AI now that they train
Right,
on videos of people driving and dramatic improvement in full self driving. Like basically, it's solved now. And that
right.
only happened in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I don't think I mean, whatever level of AI they might have been using before must not have been very sophisticated. He didn't have the data centers either.
True. Right.
So
He didn't have the data
I
centers.
think the magic of Elon, which I think he hasn't kept this a secret. He's been telling everybody, as far as I understand it, and I don't know how granular this is, but he gets rid of the middle guy, the managers in the middle. He's like, if you hired designers to do something or engineers to do something, why do they need a manager on top of them to do it? You tell them to get the job done. They report directly to Elon. You got 5 minutes, let's talk. And then I think there's the friction between his vision and what's happening on the floor is reduced because he's gotten rid of these middle layers. Then he has his philosophy as deleting anything you can, and delete too much and then bring back if you need to, which creates efficiency. I think this guy is all about efficiency, and plus his personal life. I don't know. He works 24/7. I think it's even hurt his personal life. I think that's why. I don't want to talk about his personal thing, but I think his relationships take a back seat to his
Him
work.
and Amber Heard were such a great couple. I don't know how they
Um,
made that work.
so I think maybe that's why things are going faster. And I think recently, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even in that meeting for Tesla, he kind of admitted how he's reached the wall. Like he doesn't actually have as much time now working with Doge to do everything he was doing with Tesla and everything. Even there were some rumors and people kind of complaining, like Elon's kind of dropping the ball a little bit on Tesla. He's got his focus pulled. Understandable. Good thing he has good people in charge to run things. But I don't think he's not running anything day to day with Neuralink. He's not running
Right.
day to day with these things anymore. I think uh, he has people that he can trust, and he's not. I think that's how he's getting his stuff done.
Makes sense.
So
All right, that makes sense. So then, what is the
I mean, Rob Paul talked about how, Sam Altman must have AGI. That's how. No, there's no AGI. Scam Altman is crashing and burning now. I mean, I've seen the meme, but I don't think he's sleeping well at night anymore.
right?
Tom, you listen to what Microsoft CEOs saying. You listen to everybody. I think Lee, you talked about this on Twitter's posts. They're basically out of the whole models game. They're like, open source is one.
That's
Open
right.
source as one.
It looks like it.
If you're Sam Altman, it costs $7 billion to run your company a year. You're running at a deficit. I mean, he's basically Zelensky going, help us fight Russia. You're like, it's over, buddy.
And
It's
Elon's like, um, you have a fancy CSV file.
yeah.
I can do it.
That's
And
what
now I'm using Grok 10 times more than ChatGPT.
I'm this close to getting rid of ChatGPT.
Yeah,
This
it's just that the
close.
code's better for me. So,
I don't
but
code.
but
Yeah.
as far as the AI doing executive decisions and that Apple could use in order to solve the issues, it can get over people and the structure of how things are.
Yeah, I guess so. Look,
AI can't make a bad process a good process if the person interpreting the information is bad. So it's not going to work.
I actually think Nothing. You know the Nothing company, Nothing phone.
No,
Really?
nothing phone.
The Nothing phone.
I
You've never
heard
seen
about
the
that.
Nothing phone?
I
It
think I've heard.
basically, I mean, from my perspective, it's like a bootleg iPhone,
Right.
but without all of the guts, the software behind it. I think, but there's much cheaper. But the experience, it's basically the closest you can have to an Android phone that's like an iPhone,
I see.
and they seem streamlined, young startup, and I feel like they're gonna eat Apple's lunch because Apple apparently now is under the. I was about to call them like Google, right? The massive
Right.
ship that's hard to turn. Although Google, what they've been doing in AI in the past couple of months, okay,
That's
they
been pretty
weren't
good.
they weren't asleep. Like what they're
Yeah.
coming out with is really astounding. So we'll see what Apple does. But everybody said that Apple went downhill when Steve Jobs died, and I do think the visionary is gone. Um, you know, Steve Jobs did not pick Tim Cook because he's a visionary. He picked him because he's a numbers guy. So the profitability of Apple has gone up, but there's nothing new that came out that's exciting anybody. We were waiting for the Vision OS, the VR. Okay, amazing technology, completely out of reach of the common person. The car that was supposed to be around, there's no car. I don't think there's any car that's coming. I think they scrapped that. So I don't see what's coming down the. ARM was great. Okay, Epic, fantastic. I just got the M4 Max Studio. Okay, it's fantastic. But other than that, I don't know what they're going to do. So,
Right.
I think there might be. Anyway, I really hope. I hope they do something like what you're talking about, using AI in order to accelerate what they're doing. But I really don't see that. Anyway, I wanted to bring up Apple because I wondered if you could have a Apple AI CEO or co-CEO. I would love that. Even just the rumor of that would, I think, boost and get people excited about what's coming for Apple.
Long Apple calls. All right, well, that's it for the right moves this week. The right moves for the right minds for the right times, and we thank you very much for your patronage. Chat's going wild. We'll be back next Sunday.
Support us over on Patreon. If you can sign up to our Patreon, the link is down. There's no Patreon.
There's no Patreon.
There's no Patreon.
We're a Tom-supported enterprise. That's what to say. All right. Ciao.